Hey, this is thecanddchannel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 180 Hunt versus Werdum, which will happen on November 15th. Overall, it's not the greatest card. The main card's good. Scratch that. 3 fights of the main card are good. Jessica I versus Leslie Smith is good. The rest of the fights are either lower tier fighters or guys coming out of Ultimate Fighter Latin America. I actually did manage to watch fights of every one of the fighters here. So I did watch a good amount of the fights on, a good amount of fights on the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. Just get an idea of what each of these guys brings to the table. The thing is, I remember there was a fight, Diego Rivas versus Rodolfo Rubio, not that long ago. It just happened like last week or something. Both guys are the Ultimate Fighter Latin America, and they just are not very good. I don't know how to say it. So I expect to see a lot of fighters here, if not all of them, not being what I would consider high level, what people would want to see as far as being UFC level. I know that I keep saying it a lot. The definition of UFC level is changing. Obviously, you can see that a lot of guys get chances in the UFC that honestly probably couldn't even win too consistently on the regional scene. Generally, those are guys coming from the Ultimate Fighter. So we're getting a couple of those here, to be perfectly honest with you. With that said, 4 of the fights here I'm looking forward to. Hunt versus Werdum, Gastelum, Ellenberger, Bermudez, Lamas, and I versus Smith. Those are the 4 fights I'm looking forward to. Let's just get started. On the main card, the main event for the UFC interim heavyweight title, we have Mark, the Super Samoan Hunt versus Fabricio Werdum. Werdum has an 18-5 record with 1 draw, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 9 wins by sub, 37 years old. He's pretty tall for the weight class too, 6'4". He's on a 4-fight win streak. He trains out of King's MMA, and you can really see that his progression from training under Rafael Cordero. He is one of the top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the world. He's strong off his back. He's strong on top. He's got long limbs. Really just, he's definitely the type of guy you just don't want to go to the ground with. Especially in heavyweight, where you don't have a lot of strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. His Muay Thai is greatly improving, showing a lot more power, some combination striking, good knees. He has this feinting, he has this weird feint game. He also has a tendency to, I don't want to say showboat, but he'll definitely, this is a guy that'll point to the ground against like Mark Hunt. He points to the ground, they look, and then he punches them. He has a way of like mid-fight getting into his opponent's head. You saw it against Travis Brown too. This is a guy where I forgot, he was on his back for some reason, and then he dares Brown to go to the ground. They step off, and Werdum does a no-handed kip-up. The guy is just like, he pretty much like trolls in the cage. He's kind of notorious for that too. If you watch some of his fights, he'll like point somewhere or say something, and then use that opportunity to like launch offense or something like that. He also is pretty good. His takedown game's getting a lot better too. He took down Travis Brown. He's the only guy so far to have taken down Travis Brown so far. Mark Hunt, 10-8 record with 1 draw, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 6 losses by sub. He's 40 years old, training out of like ATT and Jackson Winklejohn. For this camp though, he's bringing in his own guys, and because he's taking the fight on pretty short notice, 1 month notice if I'm not mistaken. So went to Mexico and brought his own guys, brought his guys in there. He's really strong kickboxer. His left hook and his uppercuts are really good. He uses feints well. Super heavy-handed guy. Actually has a good leg kicking game too when he uses it. One of the strongest chins in MMA. His takedown defense has been really good as of late. His overall grappling has actually improved as of late to the point where he's going for his own takedowns. If this fight was on short notice, I'd actually say he has improving cardio, but this fight, it's reported that he's over like 300 pounds. He's taking the fight on short notice. We saw how he fought against Ben Rothwell in Colorado. Gassed out. Pretty bad. It's comically bad, actually. Both of them did. Rothwell worse than Hunt. If I'm not mistaken, where they're fighting at, Mexico City, it's gonna be 7,000 feet up or something like that. I hear the elevation's even higher. So with that said, this fight really comes down to the first or second round for Mark Hunt. There's a lot of factors going against him. Mainly, a lot of it's just cardio. The skill is there, stylistically, he's not a bad matchup. On a regular training camp, Hunt's hard to take down, heavy-handed, a bit more experienced striker. Definitely a much more experienced striker than Werdum. Arguably the better striker than Werdum. Stylistically, he's not an easy fight for Werdum in a full training camp. In this case, the elevation's just gonna work against Hunt. Werdum's shown he can go 5 rounds with Travis Brown and still look pretty fresh. He got the full camp. He's been training out of Mexico, so with those factors, I gotta go with Fabricio Werdum to win this one. My head says Werdum, my heart says Hunt. Huge Mark Hunt fan, if you guys know me. Always cheering for the guy. Early on in his UFC tenure, I wasn't picking him to win. Later on in his UFC tenure, I was always picking him to win. And he actually hasn't let me down very much, actually. Not always. I think I picked against him against Junior Dos Santos, which is actually a correct pick. But for the most part, he's actually shown to be a a legit top 10 heavyweight in 2014. It's kind of crazy, but I gotta go with Werdum. I think if the fight goes to the later rounds, then it's all Werdum. I don't expect this fight to be pretty. I honestly think both of them are probably going to gas out after like the 3rd round. If it goes past the 3rd round, it's going to be like single strikes. Maybe Werdum takes it to the ground. If Werdum takes like the back or something too, that could be troublesome for Hunt as well. And Werdum, even if it doesn't work in the stand-up, maybe he can try and take the fight to the ground. Heck, maybe even full guard. Not the best strategy or anything like that, but he can win on the ground if it gets there as well. So Fabricio Werdum for the win. Next fight after that, Jake Ellenberger fights Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum has a 9-0 undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's only 22 years old. He's an Ultimate Fighter winner. He's a good boxer that uses good jab. He's a good wrestler as well. And also he's pretty resilient. This is a guy that can be behind on the scorecard and still win. Happened against Nico Musoke. Lost the first round, got his back taken, won the next 2. Fought a good fight with Rick Story, beat Uriah Hall. Real resilient guy. Jake Ellenberger, 29-8 record, 18 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. Also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 29 years old on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to likes of Roy McDonald and Robbie Lawler. Trains out of Rain, but I believe he's at Glendale right now. Same camp as Ronda Rousey. He's a strong wrestler. He has really good ground and pound. His stand-up is good. He has good knees, and he's heavy-handed. His cardio has shown to be pretty weak, though. You can see that in the Martin Campman fight. In the 3rd round against Diego Sanchez, I think he lost that round. Yeah, he got his back taken and just pounded out. He's just his cardio just isn't the greatest. It definitely is something that tends to fail him. It looks like he puts a lot of power into his strikes early on. That's the thing. The problem with Ellenberger really is he looks like he's regressing. I'm not gonna lie. The guy that beat Marquardt, Jake Shields, Diego Sanchez, and just was moving on up, it hasn't been there. He's a guy that didn't look great against Jay Haran. Sometimes doesn't pull the trigger. Sometimes it's like he's trying to conserve his cardio too much and he won't pull the trigger. Doesn't always go for his wrestling until against both Robbie Lawler and Roy McDonald, he went for his wrestling. He got a takedown actually on both those guys. They're in the late 2nd round or in the 3rd round, Kelvin Gastelum's got a lot of momentum going for him too, He's just getting better, He's a guy I was kind of doubting coming out of the Ultimate Fighter, and now it's kind of looking like a blue, he appears to be a blue chip prospect. A legit blue chip prospect. I gotta go with Kelvin Gastelum. If it goes into later rounds, I gotta go with Kelvin. I think he might be able to pressure Ellenberger in the later rounds. Might have a tough time in the 1st round, He's Ellenberger's pretty strong in the 1st round if he lets, if he really lets go. But I gotta go with Gastelum, especially in a 3-round fight. I think he can definitely outwork Ellenberger. It's definitely just kind of outwork the guy. Next fight after that, Dennis Bermudez fights Ricardo Lamas. Okay, Lamas, 14-3 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. Also has 2 losses by KO or TKO, 32 years old. He's a good wrestler with really strongest aspect is probably his ground and pound. His stand-up's good. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's solid as well. Dennis Bermudez, 14-3 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by submission. 27 years old on a 7-fight win streak. The dude is just a strong guy. This guy doesn't just go for takedowns. He goes for slams. He's a strong wrestler with good takedown defense, really strong ground and pound. Stand-up's greatly improving. His stand-up defense sucks. I always say it, and it's true. He gets hit. He gets hit hard. That's his one big weakness. With that said, Ricardo Lamas and I, it's just I never pick Ricardo Lamas fights correctly. The only time I did was, I picked him to lose against Jose Aldo. But when I picked him to lose, he won. When I picked him to win, he's lost. right? Yeah. I think that goes back into WC days. I think my problem with Lamas has always been the same. For a guy that's a top 10, and I think might even be a top 5 featherweight, I'm not too sure, he does not have a particular great skill set in any one particular area of MMA. He's not a great striker. He's not a superior, he's not this like crazy wrestler. His strongest aspect, in my opinion, is his ground and pound. I'd say that's a late level. And even his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, it's good, especially when he's on top, but it's not like, he's not a guy that you can't go to the ground with. I think that's why I always pick against him, because he finds ways to win, though. I think that's the thing with him. He knows what he's good at, and he does it, and he employs it. Yeah, that's the thing with Lamas. Like I said, good. He's good everywhere, but I can't really say that he's particularly great at any one aspect of MMA. Dennis Bermudez, one of the better wrestlers of the division for sure. High impact slams. He's a big pressure fighter as well. Super resilient guy too. This guy, he gets hit hard, he gets dropped, and he keeps coming at you. So I gotta go with Bermudez to win this one. The one thing that really concerns me is just the fact that Bermudez gets hit clean. Otherwise, I'd say that he can probably defend Lamas' takedowns. Just with his strength and his explosiveness, I can probably see him get Lamas to the ground. Bermudez has been showing some greatly improved stand-up offensively on a technical level lately, especially in the Guido fight. Once again, his biggest weakness though is his stand-up defense, but for the most part, Dennis Bermudez for the win there. Next fight after that, Edgar Garcia fights Hector Urbina. Well, Garcia has a 14-3 record, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. 30 years old. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He's returning to the UFC since December 2009. Guy with good stand-up. It's solid and good enough. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are good too. Hector Urbina, 16-8 record with 1 draw, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. Also has 5 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. 27 years old, trains out of ATT. If I'm not mistaken, he was in The Ultimate Fighter. I remember him having a good clinch and good dirty boxing, but I remember he wasn't all like. I don't particularly remember him having the greatest striking. That's how I remember him. I remember him mostly for his clinch game, and I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, he's more of an end fighter. So it's somewhat tough for me to call, but I'm gonna go with Edgar Garcia for the win there. Seems a little more polished, actually. Next fight after that, Chris Heatherly fights Augusto Montano. Chris Heatherly, 8-2 record with 1 no contest, 1 win by TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. Height-wise should be interesting because Heatherly is 5'8", whereas Montano is 6'2". Heatherly, his best strength is his wrestling. His other skills, his striking is just kind of average at best. But his wrestling is his strongest skill. With Montano, he has a 13-1 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub, 29 years old, like I said, he's 6'2", on a 4-fight win streak. His only loss is to Sam Alvey. Most of his wins are in the first round. It'll be his first fight in the UFC. He is a finisher. I did watch his last fight. I forgot the guy's name, but he fought in the Jackson MMA series. And what I saw from the fight, it only lasted a round, but he did get taken down, so that was actually a bit worrisome because Heatherly's a good wrestler. But I liked what I saw from his stand-up. So nothing in particular about it that I saw that was like great. Like, you know, he had a great jab, great kicks. I mean, the stand was kind of even. He got taken down. Got his back taken briefly, reverse position, and just swarmed. That's kind of how the fight went. With that said, this one's kind of tough for me to call. It's interesting matchmaking too, actually, because Heatherly's coming off that loss to Ben Saunders. He's the guy. Ben Saunders hits the first omoplata in the UFC. That was against Chris Heatherly. You know, so it's interesting. He's coming off a loss. Augusto's coming off a 4-fight win streak. So maybe they see something in Augusto Montano. I'm going to go with him for the win here. I hear he's also training with Jackson Winklejohn for this camp. So, you know, his wrestling should be helped in that case. Yeah, but tough for me to call, to be perfectly honest with you. A UFC newbie versus, like, pretty much a lower level guy. So they're both just kind of lower level guys. So I got Augusto Montano for the win there. At least at the very least, he's the more potent finisher of the two. Okay, on the prelims on Fox Sports 1 for the Ultimate Fighter Latin America Bantamweight Final. We have, I'm going to say the nicknames too, and probably refer to them by their nicknames so I don't get too confused. Alejandro El Diablito Perez versus Jose El Teco Quinonez. I probably butchered that last name though. El Teco, 3-1 record, 2 wins by TKO, 1 win by decision. He's only 23 years old. But his first fight in the UFC. What I saw from the show from him, I liked his stand-up, particularly his kicks. Also showed some good ground and pound as well. With Diablito, 14-5 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. Has 2 losses by submission. He's 25 years old. Interestingly enough, he's defeated by El Teco by unanimous decision pretty recently too, back in August 2013. It's his first fight in the UFC. I think I saw from Perez, I liked his stand-up. I remember he went up against a guy that was trying to take him down all day, and he showed good takedown defense. Overall, though, I liked more of what I saw out of Jose El Teco Quinonez, so I'll go with Quinonez for the win there. Next fight after that, Leonardo Chimmy Morales fights Yair Pantera Rodriguez, and this is for the Ultimate Fighter Latin America Featherweight Final. Well, Rodriguez, 3-1 record, 1 win by KO, 1 win by sub. He's 21 years old. It's his first fight in the UFC. What I saw from him, I liked his stand-up. Particularly, he uses a lot of unorthodox kicks. Showed a pretty good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game as well. He was on his back, set up a triangle pretty good, and ended up getting it on the show. With Morales, he's 4-0, undefeated record, 2 wins by TKO, 1 win by sub, and a submission win by strikes. He's only 21 years old as well. He's a finisher. He'll be his first fight in the UFC. What I liked from him, especially his first fight on the show, his kicks, especially his leg kicks. Went for the legs, they were pretty hard, and then he got the head kick and got the win. I liked what I saw from his stand-up, except that he throws a lot of single strikes. He also throws a lot of kicks without much setup, so I don't like that. Otherwise, I did like what I saw from the guy. I'm going to go with Leonardo Chimmy Morales for the win there. Next fight after that, Jessica Evil Eye fights Leslie the Peacemaker Smith. Smith has a 7-5 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by decision. He's 32 years old, training out of Cesar Gracie. She is a brawler who's always pushing forward. She is a pressure fighter, super aggressive. She also lands body strikes, has a pretty good head kick as well. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game actually isn't too bad. She's, I believe she actually hit an omoplata sweep on Barb Honchak. So her ground game's not too bad. You know, got that crucifix on Caitlin Young, pounded her out. She has good cardio and a good chin as well. Jessica Evil Eye, 10-2 record with 1 no contest, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. She's 20 years old, trained out of Strong Style Fight Team. I believe Stipe Miocic trains out of there. She has good kickboxing and improving grappling. It's kind of hard to take down. I remember Alexis Davis managed to take her down, but she can't really do much with it. I think I got back to her feet. I, in particular, it's mainly her boxing game that's good. One thing that's interesting with Leslie Smith's game is that, you know, she likes to push forward. She likes to pressure her fighters, or her opponent, you know, using her boxing. I think Jessica Eye can play that game. Actually, if you saw her fight against Sarah Kaufman, she pretty much stayed in the pocket with Kaufman, who has that type of game, a somewhat similar game as Smith has, except more technically sound. I thought I beat Alexis Davis, actually, even though I picked Alexis Davis to win. That I should have got the win. I think also I is gonna be the better athlete of the two. So yeah, I gotta go with Jessica Evil Eye for the win there. I think she can match Smith's aggression and pressure fighting with her own. I don't know if she'd back up very much. She didn't really against Kaufman. I was pretty back and forth. I think she can kind of emulate what she did in that fight against Smith, and get the win there. Next fight, attack Gabriel Mowgli Benitez fights Humberto Brown. It's Humberto Brown Morrison, but I think it's just Humberto Brown. So with Brown, 4-4 record, 3 wins by submission, 1 win by decision. He also has 3 losses by submission. He's 30 years old. It'll be his first fight in the UFC. The only things I got from him, he lost his prelim fight in the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. Only thing I saw from him, he had some good offensive takedown ability, and stand-up defense was not very good though. That guy was getting hit clean a lot. Can't throw. He just didn't keep his hands up all the time. With Benitez, he has a 16-4 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. 26 years old on a 2-fight win streak. His first fight in the UFC. Jeez, who did he fight on the show? I want to say he fought Rivas, I think. It's either Rivas or Rubio. I remember, the thing I remember about Benitez more so than anything was, oh yeah, actually, yeah, I think it's Diego Rivas. He had a good stand-up game, and I think he was a guy that they were saying, like one of the other contestants was yelling from the stands, like, oh, he has no Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, and then he goes out and chokes out his opponent. So, I mean, he does have 8 wins by submission. It actually showed a decent, you know, ground game on the show too. So I gotta go with Mowgli here, Gabriel Benitez for the win. Okay, on the Fight Pass prelims, we have Henry Burre Briones. I think he just goes by Henry though. Versus Guido Ninja Cannetti. So Guido was like the annoying guy of the season. I mean, he lost this one fight that he should have won. I saw that fight actually. I think it was against Beltran, Marco Beltran, I think, and he totally won the fight. but he kicked his opponent when he was down. That's kind of why he lost the fight. And then still thought he should have won. And he was just kind of annoying about it, like telling everyone he should have won and whatnot. And he was just kind of the annoying guy of the season. With that said, he has a 6-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub, 1 loss by submission. He's 34 years old on a 4-fight win streak. He's never been past the first round and is his finisher. We his first fight in the UFC. So what I liked from the show, Stan's alright. He's kind of a brawler. I mean, especially when he fought, I think he fought Perez later on. He was just kind of brawling with him, pushing forward, not protecting himself. Showed some good kicks. And eventually though, he got knocked out. Like, knocked out bad too. One thing I liked out of Guido though that I saw in it wasn't the Perez fight. I think it was the one before that. I think it was against Beltran actually. He showed a pretty decent clinch takedown game. He got a lot of his takedowns from the clinch position. With Briones 14-5 record with 1 draw, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. He's 33 years old. It's his first fight in the UFC. I believe Briones was the guy who beat up Marlon Vera, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's him. Winning the fight. And then he gets upkicked and just knocked out cold. But what I saw in this fight against Vera, good offensive takedown ability and good ground and pound. So with that said, it's tough to say. I kind of liked what I saw out of Guido more, so I'll go with Guido Ninja Cannetti for the win there. And finally, Marco El Psycho Beltran fights Marlon Chito Vera. So Beltran, it's funny because it's not, there's like Joey Beltran and Brandon Vera, but it's not dumb. Dumb joke. Beltran, 5-3 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. Also has 1 loss by TKO and 2 losses by sub. 28 years old on a 3-fight losing streak. This is before Ultimate Fighter Latin America. He's never been past the second round. He is a finisher. His first fight in the UFC. What I saw from him in the show, wild stand-up. I mean, just wings punches, and a decent offensive takedown ability. With Marlon Chito Vera, 6-1 record with 1 draw, 1 win by KO, 4 wins by sub. He's only 21 years old. It's his first fight in the UFC. I think he was taken out of the show because he had some sort of like infection or something like that. That said, I gotta go with the youth here. I'll go with Marlon Chito Vera for the win there. I mean, it's not like he showed anything too great against Briones besides the outkick. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. He was actually standing with Briones actually and doing pretty well too. So his stand-up actually wasn't too bad. So yeah, but nonetheless, I'll just go with Marlon Chito Vera for the win there. Okay, to recap, on the main card, I have Fabricio Werdum beating Mark Hunt, Kelvin Gastelum over Jake Ellenberger, Dennis Bermudez over Ricardo Lamas, Edgar Garcia beating Hector Urbina, Augusto Montano over Chris Heatherly. On the Fox Sports 1 prelims, I have Jose Quinonez beating Alejandro Perez. In the next fight after that, I have Leonardo Morales over Yair Rodriguez. Jessica I beating Leslie Smith. Gabriel Benitez over Humberto Brown. And on the Fight Pass prelims, I have Guido Cannetti over Enrique Briones. And Marlon Vera beating Marco Beltran. So that's it for my predictions for UFC 180 Hunt versus Werdum. If If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for You. Thank you guys very much.